Hi, folks. So I am a little under the weather, as you can hear and probably see. And so if my nose runs or something like that, you'll know what's going on. I have been traveling rather quite a bit. And I think last week I either caught a bug or caught COVID. I don't know what it is. So we'll, if it continues for another 2 or 3 days, um, I will get myself tested. I'm certainly isolating, which is fine, but I think it might just be allergies and a bug of some sort is what I'm feeling, but we'll continue to monitor it. Thank you in advance for all of your good wishes and your patience. The weekly overview for this week is actually going to go out tomorrow on Tuesday. This is a video that needs to happen before that weekly overview, so you can consider it a part of the weekly overview or however you want to consider it. The thing I want to press upon you right up front is that we are still in the new moon in Taurus month. The new moon in Gemini occurs on June the 6th. And you are welcome. This video is going to focus on transits in the sign of Gemini. It is time. I mean, the sun entered Gemini on the 20th last week. Venus entered Gemini on the 23rd. Mercury is entering Gemini on June the 3rd. Gemini season has begun. But Taurus season and Aries season and Pisces season and, well, not so much Pisces season. I think Aries and Aries, I'm confusing the issue. We have personal planets transiting not just in Gemini, but also currently in the signs of Taurus and Aries. And as I have mentioned to you before, if you want more context about what I'm about to say over the next couple of minutes, please take a look at my last week's weekly video so that you're grounded in the energies of the present. This video that I'm doing applies more as we head into June, arguably, although it also applies to this week. But as I said, I really want to be clear that the current energies are expansive and really more effectively described in my last week's weekly overview video. So I would look at that. Now, tomorrow, I will do a weekly overview, so you're welcome to wait for that as well. But briefly, May, June, and July are forward-moving months. We may finally have the chance to move forward in a direction that we had outlined between April and July, August of last year, but then may not have been able to move forward in the second half of 2023 until the middle of February 2024. And from especially the middle of March to the end of April with the eclipses and Mercury retrograde, we may have been at the universe's mercy to some extent and looking for the universe to give us clarity and clarification and where to prioritize, how to move forward, what to focus on. And at present, during the month of May until about June the 6th, a lot of our forward movement is based on pursuing opportunities thematically that may have an expansive feeling that goes back, as I said, to even April to July, August of 2023. But we could also be dealing with stresses and necessity as an impetus for forward movement. We're also in the week after a full moon till about the 30th of May, which are ideal energies to be productive. I mean, you won't guess it from the way that I'm sounding, and I'm certainly struggling with it, but my reasons are personal. So to me, but could be an ideal time to be productive as well. Let us focus on transits through the sign of Gemini, because there's a certain sequence to these transits. As we head into June, the energies become edgier. It's as if during the month of May until about June the 6th, we are moving forward onto a diving board or a diving plank, but it's forward movement. And the two forces moving us forward are opportunity and necessity and stress, deadlines, financial necessities. These can all be powerful motivators for us to get into action and for us to move forward. We may feel, in a certain sense, like we're moving forward in the only direction possible, partly because there's only a door open at this point in time, where it may have felt like there were multiple doors open between the middle of February and the middle of March, and also because necessity then has helped us focus on what it is that we need to prioritize and what action we need to take. As we head past June the 6th, the new moon in Gemini, which of course I will talk about when the time is right, the energy has become edgier. At some point, we've got to. The theme of commitment continues, but at some point we get into even further action. You've got to do the dive. You've got to commit. So as the personal planets, and at this point in time, Mars is moving further and further away from and behind the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. And the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are getting closer and closer together. Indeed, the Sun and Venus are going to conjunct, and I will cover that in a separate video on June the 4th. And we have a very important transit coming up with Jupiter trining Pluto on June the 2nd. All of this, the videos, I'm going to be doing quite a few videos this week. Today's video is on the transits in Gemini. Tomorrow I'm going to do the weekly overview. Day after, I have to do a video on Jupiter's transit through Gemini. I'm toying with whether or not I want to. Anyway, I'll get to that later. Of course, we've got a new moon coming up and the Sun-Venus conjunction coming up. But again, thematically, there's a theme of expansiveness till June the 6th, at least. After June the 6th, the energies become a little bit more requiring action. Ripping the Band-Aid off. Diving off the diving board. As the personal planets, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and even Jupiter, which on May the 25th till July of next year has entered Gemini, they will make the following aspects. They will trine Pluto in Aquarius. They will trine the South Node in Libra. They will square Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. The trines to Pluto and the South Node are expansive, promise opportunity to some extent if we have been doing the work to get to this point. Also, as we move away from the personal planets conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn and Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the North Node in Chiron in Aries, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, Jupiter in Gemini. We've still got Mercury and Mars waiting to conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. As the personal planets start to move forward, they're going to start a much more normal set of aspects, squaring these longer transiting planets and trining them. And a lot of general astrology sort of videos and posts are going to be like, oh my God, square to Pluto is coming up. But keep in mind that a month later, a trine to Pluto is going to come up. I'm talking about the fact that the energies are edgier because we're going to be squaring Saturn and Neptune shortly by the middle of June. But, a month later, we're going to be trining Saturn and Neptune in Pisces as the planets move into the sign of Cancer. So these cycles of trines and squares with the personal planets are a much more kind of normal set of energies where a certain amount of action is needed when the square occurs, and we reap the reward when the trine occurs, when the squares occur before the trines. As the planets have moved into Taurus, they squared Pluto. And as they move into Gemini, they trine Pluto. So some action continues to be taken in the sign of Gemini as something that's more, but less edgy than the square, less requiring action, less dependency on Pluto to be able to do its job and its transformation in the sign of Aquarius. And we may have been given clues about what this transformation was between January 20th and February 20th of this year as the planets move into Gemini and trine Pluto. Now, the Sun trined Pluto on May the 22nd. Venus trined Pluto on May the 25th. Okay, so 2 of the trines are done. As to Pluto, Mercury is going to enter Gemini on June the 3rd, and Mercury will trine Pluto on June the 4th. After the trines to Pluto are completed, these planets will trine the South Node. They will activate the eclipses. The eclipses are requiring us to move in the direction of the North Node in Aries and release something in the sign of Libra. Now, when I talk about signs, I'm really talking about the houses in your chart occupied by these signs. Your personal birth chart. What are the houses occupied by Aries, Libra, Gemini, Aquarius? That's what to look at if you want to get even more specific about where and how these transits are occurring. But the personal planets and Jupiter, and I'm going to do a separate video on Jupiter. We have to. Jupiter, so far, and indeed for the rest of this year, is one of the planets, the primary planet that's making very important aspects this year. It already conjuncted Uranus on April 20th, 21st of this year, this big event, astrological event of 2024. It trines Pluto on June the 2nd. Fine, I'll cover that. But even wherever Jupiter goes, it ends a 12, 13-year cycle, starts a 12, 13-year cycle. And Jupiter will trine Pluto and trine the South Node. It will square Saturn and square Neptune, but it will square Saturn 3 times, because when it goes retrograde in October, the planet it is going to be most in conversation with as it transits the sign of Gemini is Saturn. And a Jupiter-Saturn square is a big deal. And as I said, that's all I'm going to say about it now, because it is related to aspects in the sign of Gemini, but I will cover that in a future video. This is one of those high-level videos that I like to do every now and then, so that you can get sort of an eagle's eye view over what is going on in a particular house in your chart, the house occupied by the sign of Gemini. Planets move into Gemini, they trine Pluto, they trine the South Node. As these trines to the South Node become closer, and this is a key theme for this particular week, we had this new moon solar eclipse in Aries on April the 8th. The week before and after June the 8th, or you could look at it as the week before and after the Gemini new moon, will probably bring significant developments related to the April 8th new moon solar eclipse, particularly because at the time of the April 8th new moon solar eclipse, Mercury was retrograde and no Mercury is direct. And as the Sun and Venus and Mercury get ready to trine the South Node, they are activating the eclipse nodal axis. Results will show up. Forward movement will show up. Eclipsy changes will show up. Resonant of the direction we've been wanting to move in and we've been feeling called to move in, even as early as April to August of 2023, and whatever it is that we've needed to release that became even clearer between the middle of October of 2023 and March 25th of 2024. Remember, the eclipses on the Aries-Libra axis take us into the middle of 2025. We have a solar eclipse of release in Libra on October the 2nd, with October the 2nd and December the 2nd being important dates of release, the week before, week after. And we have a solar eclipse on March the 29th in the sign of Aries next year, which takes us to the week before and after May the 29th, being important. And on March the 29th, we have both of next year, we have Mercury and Venus retrograde. So we will likely feel the closing out of whatever this cycle of change that we're in, whatever it is that we're feeling called upon, this pull, this direction that we've been feeling is right for us and we need to move forward in. Since April to July, August of last year, that whole cycle is going to be completed by the middle of next year, even by, one could argue, the week before after May the 29th of next year, 2025. But this particular solar eclipse cycle on April the 8th, because it was conjunct Chiron to the minute, has a much more healing, collected, we're back to our, excuse me, you're going to be hearing more of this coughing over the next week or two. If it's COVID, you might be hearing more of this coughing for the next 6 weeks. I've been through this before. So just as I start to talk about, as I do the weekly video tomorrow, and we talk about the planets trining the South Node, know what I'm referring to, and I'll remind you again that it has to do with this eclipse axis. It's nice. It's a lovely way to start June. But this is what I mean by the month of May and the Taurus new moon on the 7th of May, and the month that created till June the 6th, which is the Gemini new moon, is just an expansive time. We're talking at this point in time more about trines to Pluto, trines to the South Node. When that Gemini new moon hits on June the 6th, we're going to be more in square land, because the squares to Saturn and Neptune will become more active. The squares to Saturn will, June the 8th, Venus squares Saturn. June the 9th, Sun squares Saturn. June the 12th, Mercury squares Saturn. June the 16th, Venus squares Neptune. June the 17th, Mercury squares Neptune. June the 20th, Sun squares Neptune. Now, Jupiter is going to be making all these aspects, and it's going to square Saturn 3 times in Gemini. The Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter, or rather, the correct sequence is the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury have entered Gemini. Mercury still to enter Gemini on June the 2nd, June the 3rd, in close proximity. The Sun and Venus conjunct on June the 4th. Mercury and Venus are getting ready to conjunct. I think they conjunct in Cancer, the sign of Cancer. Mars, Gemini's season in and of itself is done by June the 20th, when the Sun enters the sign of Cancer, as far as I'm concerned. And that times perfectly. That is when we expect Gemini's season to be done. But Venus and Mercury have started to move ahead of the Sun, and they will enter the sign of Cancer 3 days before, on the 17th of June. So Gemini's season will be done by June the 20th. Jupiter will be left behind. We're covering Jupiter's transit in Gemini in a separate video. But then, because Mars is separated, whatever this, and the month of Gemini technically takes us to the Cancer new moon of July the 5th. Wherever the Sun goes, it spotlights. Wherever Venus goes, she provides harmony and bridge building and opportunity, financial relationships. Wherever Mercury goes, he brings communication. When the new moon occurs, it opens up a month of activity. When Mars comes into Gemini on July 20th, Mars will be in Gemini from July 20th to September the 4th. Mars will trine Pluto, trine the South Node, conjunct Jupiter, square Saturn, and square Neptune. But that occurs between July 20th and September 4th. So whatever it is that the personal planets set up, action and protection around that comes up between July 20th and September the 4th. The squares of Jupiter to Saturn become more active as we head into August of 2024 and remain active until the time that Jupiter gets ready to leave Gemini in July of next year. We have a full moon in Gemini at the end of the year on December the 15th, the same day when Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, goes direct in Sagittarius. And there you have it, my friends. That is this overview. How do you apply this overview? First and foremost, forward movement, expansive forward movement currently. New moon month of Taurus is still active. Mercury is still in Taurus. Mercury is still due to conjunct Uranus. All of this will be covered in my weekly video tomorrow. The week before and after June the 8th or June the 6th, however you want to call it, still has an eclipsy resonance and purpose and will bring developments. So as we've maintained, the expansiveness in our charts is related to the Aries and Taurus parts of our chart. The Aries part of the chart where the North Node and the North Node eclipses are, saying lean in this direction. Your growth is in this direction. Jupiter's 13-month transit through Taurus, roughly between May of 23 to May 25th of 24, has just ended, ending a 12-13-year cycle, starting a 12-13-year cycle, and peaking with the conjunction with Uranus on April the 20th. The next 12-13 months after April the 20th will show us the consequences of this conjunction. Significant change. Almost of the kind you went through in 2011 and early 2012. A seismic shift. I think that's what I termed the video I did on this. Now the planets move into Gemini, separating more and more from an intense period of conjunctions that we've been going through since late 2023. Conjunctions with Pluto, followed by conjunctions with Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, North Node or North Node, Chiron, and Jupiter and Uranus. There are still some conjunctions with Jupiter. Mercury conjuncting Uranus is pending. Mercury conjuncting all the planets. No, Mercury conjuncting Jupiter and Mars conjuncting Jupiter are pending. Remember, the communication cycle that is still active is the communication cycle in the sign of Aries. I'm going to have to just do a reminder video on that as well. With all of that being the backdrop, with all of that drawing your current energy, specifically what's going on in what is the linkage between, and remember that new moon in Gemini on June the 6th really has an edginess to it. It's very action oriented. The new moon itself is squaring Saturn. And at the time of the new moon, the Mars-Pluto square, Mars entering Taurus squaring Pluto, is becoming really active. At some point, you commit to a direction, then you've got to go for it. The consequences of those actions are here and present. The Band-Aid is off and change is in front of us. But till June the 6th, enjoy the expansiveness. Keep moving towards the opportunity or the door that the eclipses have opened for you, and let the necessity and the stress drive you to take the right kind of action to resolve challenges and problems and create greater expansiveness for you. And as far as this video is concerned, consider the Gemini portion of your chart, this house occupied by the sign of Gemini in your chart. Make note of the fact that the Sun and Venus are there, Mercury's coming there, Jupiter's there. I will cover the Jupiter transit in Gemini 2 videos from now, so don't worry about that. But note that the trines to Pluto and the trine to South Node expand on this kind of expansiveness, easing transformation, developments related to the eclipses. And then once the Gemini month actually begins with the new moon in Gemini on June the 6th, the need for action accelerates. Gemini season ends by June the 20th when the planets start to move into the sign of Cancer. By that time, Venus and Mercury will have moved into Cancer. The Sun moves into Cancer shortly after squaring Neptune on June the 20th. The Gemini month remains active till July the 5th, the Cancer new moon. These planets will leave behind Jupiter, but on July the 20th to September the 4th, Mars enters Gemini. Action, protection. And then we have a Gemini full moon on December 15th, as I said, the same day when Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, goes direct in Sagittarius. Wherever Jupiter goes, he's ending a 12-13 year cycle, starting a 12-13 year cycle. And these conjunctions, particularly Mercury's conjunction with Jupiter on June the 4th. See, this is why I wanted to do this video today before the weekly video, because a lot of what I'm going to share on the weekly video is kind of dependent on this overview. And the weekly video will ground us into the here and now. So just be patient with me for another 24 hours. And that Mercury conjunction with Jupiter, the linkage between the forward movement required by the Aries and the Taurus part of our charts, the opportunity, and how the Gemini part of the chart links up with that is going to be very present and very resonant till that new moon in Gemini. But as we deal with the sign of Gemini, and as we move forward into that new moon and into the second, third weeks of June, we're going to become really conscious of the fact that the stability, the stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, where there's been a crisis brewing since 2016-17, even 14-15, that needs attention. But I wouldn't fret too much about the squares. They will require us to take action in the Gemini part of the chart to assist Saturn and Neptune to do whatever it is that they need to do. And they're trying, especially Saturn, what stability Saturn is trying to bring to the Pisces part of the chart. Action in the Gemini part of our chart is needed to help Saturn in that. But keep in mind that right now the squares very shortly are being followed by trines. And once these squares and trines are done, very soon we're going to be in opposition season. As the planets move into the sign of Cancer, and as they head from Cancer to Leo, they're going to oppose Pluto. As they move into Virgo, they will oppose Saturn. As they move into into Virgo and Libra, oppositions to Neptune and Chiron and the North Node in the conjunction with the South Node. As they move into Scorpio, opposition to Uranus and Taurus. As they move into Sagittarius, opposition to Jupiter and Gemini. So these normal aspects of squares and trines and oppositions all happening, and the Mars retrograde later this year is going to oppose Pluto 3 times. It's the Mars-Pluto aspects, but Mars squares Pluto, and I'll cover that with the new moon video. That certainly needs to be looked at. Mars-Pluto aspects you can't gloss over them. Those are the aspects that you can't quite gloss over. But then Mars trines Pluto on July the 21st. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this. I think this is all the overview we need. I'm not expecting this video to change your life, but this idea or notion that the planets moving into Gemini are going to trine Pluto, trine the South Node, and connect with the eclipses as we get into the week before and after the Gemini new moon shortly. And then move into squaring Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. Action required in the sign of Gemini to help Saturn and Neptune, but particularly Saturn, stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Where there's been a crisis brewing since 2014-15, especially 16-17, and we need to get real about it, and we need to, we need to and by the time we get to July to September of this year, we have the first of the North Node eclipses in Pisces. So a certain amount of attention is going to go into that part of the chart as we head into the second half of this year. I'm going to leave it at this. If you are interested in me doing a reading for you, looking at your personal birth chart, my email address is in the description box below. You can email me there and I can give you information on that. Joanne, the famous Joanne, I did email you back. Just letting you know. So my email might again go into, and I totally understand, I sometimes have the same issue while I'll be responding to people and be in communication with them on my Hotmail web interface, and all of a sudden the email just disappears from my inbox, and the responses are either going into the folder where stored the email or in the sent folder. So I get it, but just please know that I have responded to your last email. Sorry, folks, for that. If you found the video useful, feel free to share it, tell your friends about the channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already, and click on the bell icon next to it. And once you hover on the bell, there's a wiggly bell on top. Click on that so you're notified whenever I do a new video. There's a thanks button now that's available, so if you want to contribute to the channel, you can use that. Thank you for your time and attention. More to follow tomorrow. Tomorrow, the weekly overview, and after that, talking about the Jupiter transit through Gemini. And from there, we'll move on to the Sun-Venus conjunction and the new moon in Gemini. Okay? Thanks for your patience, guys. Take care.